Hey guys, a little bit of a different video here. Today I want to do a little bit of a, I don't know, mono type of moment where I talk to you guys while I'm just in the game, hanging out, doing some simulacrum on my character, because we can just do AFK simulacrum on this guy. But today I really want to talk about some issues in the game right now, namely what I think is the biggest issue in Path of Exile 2. And I think that the biggest issue in Path of Exile 2 right now has to be balance. And I don't even mean balance like skill balance. While I do think that there is an issue there, what I mean is I don't think it's just skill balance. I think that the entire game is just imbalanced. In everything that you do, there is just a number one thing to do, the right answer for what you can do for a certain situation, and every other thing in the game just pales in comparison. And let me just explain, right? When I ask you what are the best builds in the game, you probably know. Lightning Arrow, Deadeye, Spark, Blood Mage, right? It's pretty undisputed. Next, what's the best way to make money in the game? Well, easy. Trial of Sekhmet, or you go high rarity mapping. You can even throw in some citadels in there if you want, but in general, get your gear high rarity, juice your waystones with rarity, rare monsters, juice your tablets with rarity, rare monsters, right? Throw in an irradiated in there, and then, throw in some breaches. Boom, you're done, right? Well, next, what's the perfect amount of rarity you want on your gear? Well, easy, 150%. Like, everything in Path of Exile right now, in Path of Exile 2 specifically, has a correct answer. And that correct answer is oftentimes just way better than the next option. Way better than the next correct answer, or the quote-unquote non-correct answer. And that really is, in essence, balance. Balance not just because the builds are good, not just because of this or that is too good. It's just that everything in Path of Exile 2 right now, there is a right answer. And if you go beyond that right answer, stray beyond that right answer, you are just not, you're losing out basically. You're not going to be doing stuff nearly as efficiently as the other people. Now, there are a couple of reasons for this, right? Of course, there is the fact that balance just is a little bit whack, right? Early access, whatever. People are focusing on the game experience rather than the balance itself, which I completely understand. But I do have to say that GGG does treat this like a fully released game for the most part. So I do think that they do have to deal with the consequences of that. But the other thing, of course, again, with early access, is also with content. Right now, there is just a lacking amount of content. But the thing is, you would think that if there is a lacking amount of content, they would be able to balance the content a lot better, because balancing 4 things is much easier than balancing 10 things. So it's a little bit weird how, even though, yes, there is a lack of content, and that's the reason why the meta is so defined and the what's right and what's wrong is so defined, it's just a little bit weird, because the less things they need to worry about balancing, the easier it is to balance. Because let's face it, right? In Path of Exile 1, there's a ton of different things. And the balance there is also a little bit whack, but at the same time, they're never going to have a perfectly balanced game. The biggest thing is to make sure that the best thing is not exponentially better than the worst thing. And let me show you exactly what I mean on PoE 2 Ninja versus PoE 1 Ninja. So looking at PoE 2 Ninja, you can see right now the class distribution is as follows: 28% Deadeye, 17% Blood Mage, 10% Invoker, and then etc, right? You can see there's a clear difference between Deadeye and Blood Mage over every other ascendancy. And that's because these are the 2 right answers when picking your classes. It is Deadeye Lightning Arrow and Spark Blood Mage. Now, let's take a look at Path of Exile 1 Ninja. You can see it is a lot more even. 11% Trickster, 10% Berserker, 9% Elementalist, 9% Chieftain, 9% Occultist, 8% Necromancer. You can see that the distribution is a lot more even. And you can see that within the skills themselves too. Volcanic Fissure of Snaking, Forbidden Rite, Soul Sacrifice, Kinetic Blast with 8%, 8%, 6%, 6%, 5%, right? As opposed to us, 46% Herald of Thunder, 33% Wind Dancer, 27% Lightning Arrow, 27% lightning rod. Like, you get the point, right? Everything is way too much skewed towards the top end. And as a result, when you get to the bottom end, it's basically just not very good. Now, why is a lack of balance such a bad thing? Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Having an unbalanced game is just inherently bad for the game. But I think when it comes to Path of Exile specifically and Path of Exile 2 specifically, it really is a problem that is more of a multifaceted problem, or rather, it's an exponentially more important thing to get right. Because Path of Exile is a game that has kind of been known for a, freedom in the way that you can kind of play the game. You can have a lot of takes on what you think is the best way to farm with XYZ character, and you can also cater your farming in many ways to make it so that it fits your playstyle, and you can still have a competitive way and a competitive advantage against other people who aren't doing that. But the difference is between Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 is that even if you are formulating a plan for how you farm, a lot of times, if you're not formulating the plan around the most popular or the best way to do something, you're just going to be way inferior compared to those who are doing it the quote unquote right way, right? So it ends up being very limiting for the way that you play the game. And that really is, in essence, not Path of Exile like at all. Again, I think that, of course, as we get more content, the game will get better. There will be more ways to do it, but it just is weird because it should be the easiest to balance the game right now because there is the least amount of content in the game. But yet at the same time, it feels like it probably is in its most unbalanced state. At least hopefully will be in its most unbalanced state. I hope that when 1.0 comes out and in the future, the game does end up being a lot more balanced and is a lot more playable in different manners and ways that you want to play and cater to yourself and what you like. So I don't know like what we can really do to get to a world of balance. Is there like a specific answer for that? Funny enough, we're talking about whether or not there's a right or wrong answer for something, and I'm not sure if there's a right answer for this. I think at the end of the day, maybe just the best right answer is probably just to do better balancing job, I guess, GGG, because that at the end of the day is the crux of the problem, balance. And balance and unbalance equals always having a right answer. I don't know, a little bit of a different type of video, just me rambling, but I want to talk about that today because I do think that it is a big problem with Path of Exile. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Are there other big problems that you can see in the game? And as always, if you enjoyed this type of video and want to see more of it, be sure to hit the sub button. That is the best way to let me know you enjoy this type of content, and I'll make more of it in the future. And also, I stream every single night on twitch.tv/musicshrew, so I would love to get your support there and hang out as well. Other than that, hopefully you guys have a good one, and I'll see y'all on the next video. All right, guys. Peace.